Hello guys, my name is Sebastian Passion, and in this video we're going to look into the basics of unit testing. So for starters, I've created a dummy component, so my test component, which automatically generates a spec file for us. Also keep in mind I've started the unit tester headless so that we can look at everything within one screen to make it simplified. Alright, let's jump into it. So I have a basic component here. This basic component essentially has one function. It sums two values, so we'll pass in value num1, num2, and it will sum it for you. So if we jump to the left here, we can look into the component spec file of the test that we have. Also keep in mind that our console is showing 5 tests and we only have one test here. So what you can do is you can just write fdescribe. It will automatically only run these tests within this file. It will simplify your life a lot. Alright, so that's the first thing. Use fdescribe when you test components because essentially you want to test only what's within the component. Otherwise it might consume a lot of time for you. So Angular generates like a lot of boilerplate code already for it. So it configures the testing module for us. It compiles a component. It creates a component instance, which we then can use in our tests. This is quite nice when it comes to Angular in comparison to what we have in, for instance, in React and so on. And the way I prefer to test the components in Angular is essentially just testing the component file. So in this case, not testing the HTML and what's being rendered and so on, but rather testing essentially what the functions return. That's a preference from my side. So here's first things first. A good pattern that would be is that we'd have a describe. So the describe would just, it would wrap the test in some sort of a wrapper. I will get to that shortly. So we would describe, it will be in this way. And within the describe, you would add the actual test for this function. This is a very good pattern because if you have 20 functions, it would be very easy for you to just see, okay, this issue that I'm having with my unit test is related to this function. So you would automatically be able to understand where to look instead of just having to backtrack from that aspect. So every test should start with it, so it expects something. So always keep in mind that it should start with it should and then do something. In this case, it should sum two numbers, right? So in this case, we should always have an expectations within the it, and this is what we expect the function to do. And as I earlier mentioned, we have an component instance, so you can write component dot, and then you will be able to access all of the public functions within the component. So in this case, sum2, you can pass in two numbers, and you can expect it to equal 3. So in this case, you have tested that this function, when you give it a value x, y, it returns a z for you, which is quite obvious. So every time, for instance, if you have a CI pipeline, this function should always return 3. In some cases, if there would be an issue that it does not return 3, then you know for a fact you have a defect somewhere in the code base and you can go in and fix it. You can analyze the functions or whatever. Right, so this functions was pretty straightforward. Also keep in mind that there might be negative cases. So for instance, if you would do this, it would complain in TypeScript, but there's always workarounds. So for instance, if you would work with any values that would for some case have any null value and it should equal to 3, you would know for a fact that nothing plus 2 would not equal to 3. So what's good with Jasmine is that it actually will tell you that it expected 2 to equal 3. So in this case, null plus 2 equals to 2. All right, so this is the absolute basics of components testing. I will get into more advanced stuff in the future. So I hope you liked it. Just leave a comment if you have any questions and so on. Thank you.